Okay, so how do we identify our relationships? To identify our relationships, we describe two things. One is the meaning or the context, and the other is the cardinality. I'll show you an example. So, I've got object 1 has the cardinality, or an amount of, object 2, such that the conditions of the relationship, how they're related to each other. That sounds a bit weird without an example, but the example is just as simple as you'd imagine. A post has one user who posted it, right? So who posted it is the meaning or the context, and the has one is the cardinality. The one there is the cardinality. And so to get the cardinality, we essentially ask ourselves, I'm going to try and draw a diagram while still talking into the microphone. So if we have one object here, I'll just use the same example. User, capitals, right? User and post. Bet that pen is loud, sorry. To get the cardinality, we say, so here's one side of the relationship. Remember I said relationships have two sides. So to get the cardinality, we say, like, imagine you pick up one of these users. You pick up the user object in your hand and you say, okay, for every one of these, how many of those might there be in this particular relationship? So if you find yourself saying at least one, so for every user, for this one user, this one instance of a user object, how many instances of posts might there be? If you find yourself saying, well, there's at least going to be one, I don't think that's true in this case, right? Because, I mean, thinking of just most social platforms, you can create an account and you can have not posted anything yet. So you can definitely have 0 posts. And you can definitely have one post, but you can have hundreds if you want. You can have loads. So we say one to many, which is a nice way of saying any amount, basically. So if you find yourself saying as the answer to the question, so the question being, you pick one up, for each one of these, how many of those might there be? If the answer is at least one, then actually it's not 0 to many, it'll be 1 to many. And if it's any amount, that would be 0 to many. And if it's at most 1, that would be 0 to 1. And then if it's exactly 1, then, I mean, it just has 1. We've already got that. So that's what this would be. Like, you pick up any individual instance of a post and you go, okay, how many users are there per this post? So the answer, if you're talking about who posted it, the answer is 1. So this is a has one relationship. I'm going to show you some examples of other cardinalities and how they would work, because you may be sitting here thinking, but there's several ways that object A, post and user, object A can relate to object B, right? And you're absolutely right. Good spot if you thought about that. That's totally normal. Objects can have multiple relationships between them. For example, user and post is a great one, because a post has one user who posted it, sure, but a post could also have, as well, 0 to many users who liked it. That's a separate relationship. That's not two sides of the same one, because we're just showing post related to user. We're not showing users related to posts. I mean, we need to in the end, but just for this conversation. But you could also have, say, I was struggling to come up with more examples of these, but a post could have 1 to many users whose profile it will appear on, because you could tag other people in it. So when you post, you could tag other people, but you don't have to tag anyone. And if you don't tag anyone, it'll only ever appear, on your profile, say. And if that's the case, then it's at least going to be 1. It's going to turn up in one place. And so that would be a one-to-many relationship. And then I was trying to come up with the last example, and I had to sort of think about different roles in the system. Maybe you can think of a better example. But a 0 to 1, it's usually, it just means it's like a has one, but it's optional. So, I mean, it's the post has one user who posted it because someone has to have posted it. It has to come from somewhere. But, for example, if a post is, say, flagged for some reason and it needs to be, a moderator needs to see it and approve it, then a moderator will get assigned to it. And you'll never need to assign more than one moderator. You just need it to get approved once. So if it does get flagged, it's going to have one person assigned to approve it and go, actually, this was flagged for no real reason, it's fine, and you approve. But it might not be flagged at all, right? So it's a 0 to 1 relationship. And in fact, likelihood is it's not going to get flagged, probably. So it's a 0 to 1 relationship where the 1 seems quite unlikely, but that's doesn't change how we write it. That we write it like that. So, yes. Essentially, what that means is that if we were going to draw it out, it would be like, we would talk about the context here. This is who posted it. But yeah, you'd end up with all of these. I mean, this kind of diagram, as fun as it is to draw, and it is really good to, get a first pass at the idea of how things relate to each other. This doesn't have much longevity. It can't scale very well, which is why we quickly move on to a different type of diagram altogether, which happens to be part 2 of the nested object matrix. That's not what I meant to say. Part 2 of the object map, which is called the nested object matrix, and you'll see why.